You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. This week, my guest is Dr. Kamali Thompson. Kamali is a retired Team USA fencer and national champion, and today, an orthopedic surgery resident. She began fencing her freshman year of high school and went on to become a 14-time national medalist and an international team medalist. In 2016, Kamali won a fencing national championship while also attending medical school. We recently explored her journey in fencing, medicine, and what she learned from her experience chasing two of her dreams at the exact same time. Turns out, Kamali hated fencing at first, but she tapped into her inner competitive spirit and began to excel. She became a member of the Peter Westbrook Foundation, an organization that has changed the lives of thousands of children from the greater New York City's underserved communities by providing youth with fencing and academic improvement opportunities. It was part of the Peter Westbrook Foundation where Kamali experienced the power of community and mentorship firsthand. Kamali's story is a reminder of how impactful it is to immerse yourself in a network of like-minded people when you are chasing ambitious dreams. In our conversation, we also uncovered practical lessons on time management, explored why it's important to present solutions instead of just the challenges, and so much more. I am so inspired by Kamali's positive attitude, competitive drive, and motivation to help others. And I hope our conversation is a stepping stone for you as you look to achieve one or maybe two of your most ambitious goals. So let's pull the tarp and get straight to Dr. Kamali Thompson. Where I want to begin, what did you want to be first? A national champion fencer or an orthopedic surgeon?
So I actually wanted to be a pediatrician growing up. I'm one of those people who was like 3 or 4 years old and had the little doctor set, and I just knew I wanted to be a doctor. So that's kind of where I wanted to be since forever. And then really got into fencing in high school. And I mean, I started fencing like local high school team. I didn't really know about the Olympics. When I watched the Olympics, I was really only into like Simone Biles and Gabby Douglas and Nastia Liukin back in the day. So like that was all I really knew about the Olympics. And then kind of like got with my fencing club, who they were a bunch of Olympians, and that's when that really planted the seed. And then orthopedics didn't come until much, much later.
We'll get into it all. So let's stay on the fencing for a second. So high school, fencing club, what drew you to the sport?
Nothing. I hated fencing. So what happened was I was in 8th grade with my mom, and we were going to our local open house at the local high school. And I used to be really, really into dance. So we were actually going to the dance room because I kind of wanted to check that out and talk to the dance teacher. And we happened to walk past the cafeteria that had a fencing demonstration going on in it. And my mom was so interested. She's like, oh, what's going on in here? We like stuck our head in. And our high school coach, her daughter actually was an amazing fencer on the Princeton team, and then later became a 2012 bronze medalist. So her and my mom just started chatting it up. And after 20 minutes, my mom was like, well, you're going to join the fencing team. And I was super upset about it. I hated every second of my first year on the fencing team, freshman year. It was just not for me. I was like, I don't like it. I don't like the outfit. I'm super hot. Like, why am I here right now? But I found out I was really competitive and I hated to lose. So that's kind of how I stuck with it.
So I'm curious, you're talking about your mom chit-chatting with that person at the high school. She was excited about it. She said, Kamali, you've got to do this. What do you think piqued her interest about it?
I mean, I think it was just so unique. And then once my high school coach was telling her that her daughter went to Princeton, it would look really good for an Ivy League school. She used so many buzzwords: scholarship, Ivy League school. My high school coach was African American, so she was just saying, like, even if she doesn't keep fencing as a minority, it just looks so good on her college application. And that's all parents are concerned about when you're going to high school. They're like, how can you get to college? How can I pay for as little college as possible? And my high school coach was like, this is it. Fencing's the way. And my mom was like, oh, okay, well, there's nothing else to talk about.
So it sounds like a plan. It sounds like a great plan. I'm curious now, you talked about some of your experience that first year with fencing. You talked about the super competitiveness. When did it really click for you and when did you start to excel?
So fencing kind of funny. Basically, there's like three things you can get really good at easily. Either you're really good at attacking, going fast, and like you're super aggressive, which is just not how I was. You're really good at finding the blade and blocking it, which is called a parry or post. Or you're really good at jumping out of the way and not getting hit. So that was me. I was just like, I don't want to get hit. I would just jump out the way. And I think from having my dance background and being kind of a little bit more athletic, was just really good at like getting out the way and then hitting people. So I was like, oh, this is great. And my first year I was on JV because I had no experience. And, a couple of seniors here and there would miss meets and I would get thrown into the regular varsity meets and I would like beat people that were like pretty decent. And I was like, oh wow, this is great. But I distinctly remember my sophomore year, we had this big competition called freshman sophomore where all the freshmen and all the sophomore in New Jersey would fence against each other. And my sophomore year, I like went in there. There was a really big trophy. I wanted to win that really big trophy, and I didn't. I came in ninth, top 8 got it, and that was the competition where I was like, "How do I get better? I'm so tired of losing to these people, and I want a really big trophy. Like, how do I get there?"
That's interesting. That competitive spirit always kind of presenting itself and rearing its head in your life. So with fencing, and I'm not super familiar with any of the technique. I've never fenced. I'm curious. You talked about 3 different ways you could be very good at fencing. 3 different maybe skills,
Yeah.
approaches. You talked about your ability to kind of navigate your way out of the situation and be flexible and quick on your toes. Now, how did you go about taking that as your strong suit and then building other skill sets around it to be successful?
Yeah. So, I mean, for a while, that's all I really had. And if you don't have a private coach, then you're kind of just learning from your teammates and, whatever you're picking up. And for me, my local high school team. So after that competition, I went to my coach and I was like, hey, listen, I'm tired of these girls beating me. What do I need to do? And New Jersey is like the mecca of like high school fencing. It's crazy. We have so many high school fencers that go off to be like on the national team, Olympians. It's pretty wild. So in New Jersey, we had like actual people who were my age who were really close to making the 2008 Olympic team. Then we had some other girls that were like world champion level. And then it was like high school fencers. So I was like, well, how do I get to the like, not the Olympic level, but how do I get to, like the national champion, I guess, level of like the 16-year-olds? And she told me that I had to join a fencing club. So she recommended for me a couple of clubs, but the biggest one that stood out was this one called the Peter Westbrook Foundation. And they are an amazing program. It's a program that was built essentially to help minorities in the New York City area get familiar with fencing. And it just made the most sense for me because it was in New York. So I could just take the bus from where I lived right into New York, whereas the other clubs required me to drive or my mom to drive. And it just wasn't really feasible. So just by happenstance, it kind of helped, like worked out that I go to this club. And we are super amazing. We have the most national team members and Olympians of any club in the country. So you just walk into the club, there's nothing but greatness. Like so many people are Olympians, Olympic medalists, and just from being around them, I learned a lot.
That's incredible. A few things. I'm from New Jersey, as we talked about. I grew up in central New Jersey. I had no idea that New Jersey was such a hotbed of fencing talent. So that is a new fact that I learned today. And then I'm curious, like when you obviously you wanted that trophy, that competitive spirit kicked in. You asked these questions, trying to figure out how do I get there. But then you're still a teenager, young adult at that point. You've got to get on a bus and take yourself to this club. We got a lot of intimidating personalities there and a lot of talent. What's going through your mind every day as you're getting on that bus?
Oh my God, I was so nervous. Well, first of all, it was big for me because some people in, North Jersey frequent New York City a lot because we're so close. For me, I had never done that. And I definitely wasn't like on the bus. I was always walking home from school. So it was this huge jump of, hey, I know you, go to dance practice every night or high school practice every night, but now get on a bus, get off the bus in New York City at the Port Authority during rush hour traffic, walk 20 blocks, and then like you got all the like, the people on the street, you got like some homeless people, you got the tourists. It was so intimidating. But I would say that for me, my clubmates, we had a lot of people. Well, half of my clubmates were also New Jersey fencers. So I walk in the club and I'm like, oh my God, you you, all these people, I've seen you guys at these meets and you guys are always beating me. Like now it all makes sense, why you're so good. But we just had such a loving foundation and such a supportive system. As soon as I came, like everyone was always trying to help me out. And they're like, hey, let me give you a tip on this. Let me give you a tip on that. And for the first, I'd say like 2 or 3 months, my teammates like walked me home from, like the club, and not like walked me home. We all walked together, but they would get off of Penn Station, which is on 33rd Street. And then I would walk to 42nd Street for the Port Authority. So just a great environment. And honestly, if I didn't have that environment, I probably wouldn't have stuck with it, but they were so good. And like, we're still friends to this day.
What do you think created that environment? Because I would imagine there's a little bit of competitiveness between at least those of you at the club that were competing with each other on the local, regional, and national level, maybe. But it sounds like a really cool experience in this collaborative environment. What do you think makes it that way?
Well, I mean, that's the whole purpose of our club. So our club, basically, it's called the Peter Westbrook Foundation. And Peter Westbrook is an amazing man, 6-time Olympian. He's African-American and Japanese. And he grew up in the era of fencing when it was super racist and he couldn't even train at certain clubs until he became an Olympic medalist. And then they started letting him like in through the back door, So he built this club based on like support, on mentorship. And the way that the club is formed is, every Saturday morning we have about 100, 150, sometimes 200 kids that come in the program. The older coaches teach them how to fence. And then once you get older, like college age to, once you graduated college, you come back and you teach the new generation. So our coaches are these like mentors that we have for like 5-10 years. And then we become the coaches. And it just becomes this like every week we're all together and, we're a big family. We get brunch after. When we have national competitions, we're always staying together. We're always eating together. And if you start fencing at an international level and you're traveling to like Europe by yourself, Asia by yourself, the only people you have are your teammates. Because our club mates, we're like middle class, right? We're not the typical like super rich fencing kids. So our parents can afford to fly with us to every single World Cup in Korea, in Russia, in, China, whatever. So all we have is each other. When we were 16, 17, our parents would put us on a plane together. Like, okay, well, you're going to Poland now. It's just you two guys, like figure it out. And so you have to be family with people like that. It's hard to compete with people and you need them at the same time.
What was the experience like when you went back as a coach and mentor and got to experience that from the other side?
It was crazy. So, I mean, I think the funny thing about coaching is when you are a student, you hear what people are saying, but it just takes time to click. And then you become a coach and you're just screaming the same thing. You're screaming the same thing for years. And then finally, I remember I had these 2 girls that I kind of like was really closely mentored for like 5 or 6 years. And I remember when they became seniors in college, I had this like little thing I would do after every practice where I would tell them to go give advice to like the 12 to 13-year-olds. And one of them gave advice to one of the 13-year-olds that I told her like 4 years ago. And she's like, hey, listen, Kamali told me this thing a couple of years ago. And I just recently found out that she was right, basically, And it was just so rewarding because, you do your best to help everyone learn at their own time. And it's just really nice to find out that, your words mean something and that they listen to you. It's great.
I'm sitting here thinking about this and it just sounds like such a cool system, right? In the way the foundation is built and the way you all help each other and lift each other up and then essentially return that value back into the system. Why do you think that we can't build more communities like this in other areas, not just in fencing?
That's a good question. I mean, I think you need a lot of buy-in. I think you need the right people. So, I mean, there are tons of people that apply to be in the foundation every year. And Peter and the other coaches and the members of the board choose applications. So it's not like anyone who signs up can kind of join. You have to make sure you have the right people. We've had parents that are strictly there, for more of that competitive edge, and they've gotten kicked out of the program because like that's not what the program is about. So I think you just have to have the right people on board. And then you, as one of the leaders, have to keep reiterating what the purpose is. And most importantly, you have to lead by example.
Lead by example. I believe in leading by example. That's what this show is all about. Everybody pulls the tarp. It's all about people banding together to lift themselves and, most importantly, the team and community and those around them. Where I want to go next, Kamali, is to your career as a a doctor, an orthopedic surgeon. As I mentioned, you're an orthopedic surgery resident now. You won a national fencing champion while going to medical school. So I want to start there.
Yeah.
How did that all come together? The decision to go to medical school while you were fencing and obviously competing at a very, very high level. How did you make that decision, and how did you balance it all?
So I get to college. I'm like super late in the game in terms of competing with, I guess, other people who are my age. And I just like trained super hard for 4 years. I was like, listen, I want to be one of the best college fencers in the country. And then senior year I am, and it worked out really well. And then, most people who are athletes in college, unless you're, one of the sports that are paying you a lot of money professionally, you just decide to, go with whatever career path you chose. So for me, I didn't really feel like I had done a lot or anything really in fencing. And then, like I said before, my club mates were like so successful. I graduate from college, and then that summer is the Olympics, and I'm watching my club mates compete. So I'm like, well, let me just see what I can do. Like maybe I can go to the Olympics too. Let's kind of see how that works. But at the same time, because I had such limited fencing experience, I didn't start competing internationally until I got to med school. It didn't make sense to put off med school. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, we know that this makes sense. We know this is guaranteed. So let's kind of just keep fencing, start med school. Let's just see how it all works out. And it was rough. I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. It was so difficult. But I was young. I started med school at 20. And I would say for the first 2 years, I was sleeping like 3 to 4 hours a night on average.
So how did you do it? Obviously, limited sleep. And maybe now as a doctor, you might say that was not the best thing for your physical health and well-being. But how did you do it? How did you balance it all? How did you attack every single day?
The biggest thing for me was scheduling. I'm like a very serious organizer. So I scheduled everything. And I mean, when I scheduled everything, I made like a very general schedule of competitions, exams, assignments, all that stuff. So I knew when things were coming up. I knew if I had a competition and a test the same week, then I had to reach out 3-4 months in advance and let my professors know, hey, listen, I'm not going to be here. What can we do? I came to people when I needed something like and a schedule change with options. So I didn't really give people an option to say no. I was like, hey, listen, this is what I need from you. Here are the options. What can we do to make it work? And I think that they respected it because so many people procrastinate. It wasn't like I was trying to like get over on them. It was like, hey, I'm working really hard here. How can we make this work? And there were so many people that were willing to help me out. And I think that's because that's the way that I approached it. And then for the first 2 years, I was so disciplined. Like if I had 30 minutes at the gym or 45 minutes at the gym, like no talking, you have to get it done. I got a train to catch to get to New York. Like I was so disciplined. And even my naps, like I scheduled a nap on the train to practice. And then I scheduled some homework assignments on the train back from practice. And I think that if you're going to do something that requires, a lot of your time, you got to make sure that you're not wasting time at all. You have to be as efficient as possible. You have to have a really strong team. So my coach was on board with me. He already knew, like, I can't wait for my lesson. Like I have to come in, warm up, take my lesson, get back on the train. Like that's what we have to do. And everyone was really supportive. And it's definitely not something you can do on your own.
There's a lot of conversation and research now into the concept of time blocking and really building out a schedule, and avoiding kind of this fatigue that comes when you pivot from different tasks and eliminating decisions when you wake up or when you have a certain amount of free time, having that time scheduled so okay, this is what I'm doing then, as opposed to this analysis paralysis that sometimes presents itself over certain people. I want to go back to your concept, which is awesome. You were smiling as you were describing it, presenting people options. When you ran into a challenge, you presented people options. You said, I can't do this, but we could do this, or this. And I'm sure there's a little bit of that in your conversations with patients that we could talk about. But where did that come from? Was that something that a mentor told you? Was that something that you picked up from somebody, or just something that was kind of innate to you?
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like my attitude was always, we're going to make this work. We just have to figure out how to make it work. And I don't think no means no. I think no means like, I just haven't given you the right option. So let's figure it out, whatever that is. And I mean, if they were like 4 or 5 no's, and maybe, but I honestly don't think I've ever, especially in an academic sense, not gotten something that I wanted to get done because I was just like, hey, like there's got to be a way to make this work. You know what I mean? Like, what can we do? What are you suggesting? And even when someone I wouldn't say for this example, but just in general, like someone said I couldn't do something. I'm like, okay, well, you're the wrong person to ask. Let me go ask somebody else what they think and we'll find a way to make this work. We'll figure out how this can get done. So I think part of it also comes from, if there was a time when something didn't work out, I have, like I said, a really good support system. My friends are amazing people and they would just say, well, why don't you try this? Or why don't you try that? So I think a combination of all that.
That's so cool. And I think no matter what stage of life someone is in, the concept of bringing the right attitude to any set of circumstances is a huge unlock in what you can accomplish, right? And I'm sure there were people on the other end of these issues that you ran into, or these scheduling challenges that you ran into, professors or employers, whoever, but you come at it with the right attitude. Kamali, you come to them and you say, hey, I can't do this, but I've thought about this and there's 5 or 6 ways that we can get from point A to point B. It just might look a little different. That has to rub off on people and has to have an impact. And clearly through your story here, it has. Now I'm curious, okay, so how do we decide on orthopedic surgery once you're in medical school? You're competing, you're working hard, you're winning a national championship, and you decide on orthopedic surgery.
Yeah, so I was kind of interested in sports. So I wanted to do pediatrics, but I was also interested in sports medicine. I was like, oh, that'd be cool working with athletes. But I never thought I would like surgery. I thought like guts and blood. I was like, ooh, I don't want to do any of that stuff. But we have to do for third year of med school, we have to take everything basically. So you rotate in the hospital, you do internal medicine, that's like heart failure and stuff like that. And then you have surgery, and then you've got pediatrics, and psychiatry, and OBGYN. And I thought I would love OBGYN. And I did, but I didn't go into it. So I do my surgery rotation. I'm like, let me just do it first, like get it out the way. And surgeons have this big reputation of being like mean, and they, like they think that they're better than everybody. And I'm just like, I don't want any parts of that. I'm trying to be here for 6 weeks, get my passing high grade or whatever, and then go back to like pediatric land. And I started day one and I just loved it. It wasn't like that they were mean. It was like they were like fast paced, efficient. I was like, that's me. I'm fast paced, I'm efficient. But we did general surgery, which is normally like guts and stuff. So I liked it. I thought it was so cool. I actually did a lot with pediatric general surgeons. And every day I came home and I was like, Mom, you'll never guess what we did today. Mom, you'll never guess what I did today. And she was like, I think you really like surgery. I think you should think about it. And I was like, oh, no. I'm not changing my whole life course just because, a couple of like pediatric hernia repairs. Yeah, they're cool, but like whatever, But we had to choose an elective for the last 2 weeks. And it was like vascular, don't care about that. Eyeballs, don't care about that. And orthopedics. So for people who don't know, orthopedics is broken bones, ligaments, and like joint replacement. So if you have an ACL tear, that's an orthopedics. I was like, oh, well, ACL, sports medicine. I think maybe sports medicine. Let me like see what this is about. And I started my first case. Basically, this really young girl's limb is not aligned correctly. So we cut it and then we like repositioned it and then we like stuck some screws into it. And I was just like doing their whole case. I was like, are you guys kidding me? This is what we do. This is what orthopedics do. And they were like, this is great. Put the screw in the leg. And I was like, this is so awesome. How do I change everything? I'm going to surgery. Orthopedics is it.
That is so cool. I mean, I'm not one who likes blood or guts. I'm not sure I could do any of that. So I commend you. What are some of the skills that you took from your fencing athletic career and your experiences in medical school that you bring to the profession today as an orthopedic surgeon? Are there certain skills that are really translatable?
Yeah. So number one, my technical skills are really good. So like I can see something and I can do it pretty well. And a lot of my attendings have been like, wow, I didn't expect that to be so good. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, but I think part of that just because for fencing, right? So number one, there's a discipline, especially when you're taking a lesson of like, I just did that wrong. Don't do it wrong again. Like you have to make sure that when you are attacking someone or you are doing any motion, that you have to get it as correct as possible because you don't have like a second chance to get another touch, right? So I feel like that mentality has kind of been ingrained in me. So if I do something wrong, like if I, sometimes people come in with broken bones, you have to reduce it, like put it back correctly. And if it's not aligned right, you have to get it right. So I'm like, we have to get it right. We have one shot. Like, I'm not trying to do this again. So I think that mentality is one. And then the actual technical skills of like my hand control and like how my hand moves and be able to see things in different planes and see where things should be, right? Because it's like, if I'm fencing you here, but then you're going to be over there, like I need to be able to adjust for that distance. So I think both of those are like translated in a really interesting way because it'll happen. And I'm like, oh, I think I got that from fencing.
That's interesting. I've got to believe that your energy and positivity and just positive attitude around everything, which is infectious in a good way.
Yeah.
Not in a bad medical way. That's right. I've got to believe that is playing a factor in your success. Have you run into challenges in medicine today that you feel like someone like you, in the sense that you've got this really positive attitude and this really can-do spirit, and what seems to me like you'd have an amazing bedside manner talking to a patient just in that positivity. Do you feel like you can help right some of the challenges maybe that people feel, like exist in medicine in general today?
I mean, I think so. I think the hardest part about medicine is that everyone grows up wanting to be a doctor. And because everyone who grows up wanting to be a doctor sees a challenge that they want to fix, right? I want to help people. I want to help sick people. For minorities or lower income families, I want to help people get more access. Like, right, you always have these challenges. And then once you get into the medical field, you see how hard it is to combat the system. So I would say that I'm getting to the point where I'm like, oh, wow, this is going to be really difficult. But yes, I do feel like there are some things that I could help work with. And being in Philadelphia, specifically North Philadelphia, my biggest thing right now is helping people get more access to medical care and more so medical literacy, because we have a big problem with people, especially in surgery, not understanding what's going on. They don't understand what surgery they have. They don't understand why they needed it. And I think it's crazy for someone to operate on you and you don't know what they did or why it was done. So I don't know how I'm going to combat that. That's a huge undertaking, but I think that's what I'm going to kind of steer my efforts towards.
I think no question you are going to get there and you're going to make a difference. So people see doctors on TV shows and in movies, and it looks kind of gory at sometimes, but there's like this glamour about being a surgeon. Maybe it's because of some of the TV shows and things of that nature. What are some of the non-glamorous things that you've got to do to keep the trains rolling that maybe people don't get to see?
Yes, it's all Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy is all lies. Let me just say that. I would say there's just an efficiency that comes from needing to get things done in the hospital. And there are so many days where I have to do everything myself. And I just minus the actual surgery, we had a patient a couple days ago who required this procedure in the OR, which meant that they had to get an actual hospital bed, not the ER hospital bed. And then we had to take him to imaging to get a CAT scan. So I had to go up to the floor. I had to get them a hospital bed. I had to move them to the hospital bed. I had to take them to the CAT scan. None of that is my actual job, right? My job is to show up, ask questions, do the procedure, and book you for surgery, right? But I did 8 jobs in one. Sometimes I have to do blood draws. Sometimes, patients will come in and they're like, well, can you call my mom? And can you call my uncle? Can you talk to this person? And you're like, I don't have time for this. But you do, because you realize, patient care, at the end of the day, the patient needs it. At the end of the day, you're a crappy person if you don't get it done. So you have to do it. So I would say all that. You're just sweating from point A to point B before the surgery part has even started.
That's one of the many reasons why I wanted to talk to you, Kamali, because like I said, I love talking about this everybody pulls the tarp philosophy that I have, and the fact that great teams, great communities, great organizations, and great hospitals are powered by individuals who do things far outside the boundaries of what's in their job description. And that is the definition of pulling the tarp, as I like to say. And there is no question that all over the world, especially over the last few years, our healthcare workers have pulled tarp in ways that I can't even imagine. And we owe healthcare workers an amazing debt of gratitude. And I'm just so excited to have this conversation and hear a little bit more about your story. And I know, Kamali, you are going to continue to make such a great difference with all the amazing work that you're doing. So thank you for pulling the tarp, and we'll have to catch up again soon and see where all this continues to go.
Yes, we definitely have to. I'll keep you updated on my surgery experience and how it's going. And if you ever need a surgery, let me know.
Well, as I shared with you before we got on, I've had a few of those. I've had a back surgery. I recently had 3 hernia repairs. So my track record says I might need to meet up with you again sometime. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. This has been so much fun. Kamali, keep pulling the tarp, and thank you for spending some time with me this week.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew H. Moses. That's Andrew H. Moses. And be sure to sign up for my email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today is a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.